Over the weekend, I joined the 2022 GMTK Game Jam, which is hosted by Mark Brown from Game Maker's Toolkit. The goal of the jam is to push you to be creative and design something new and unique. During this jam, I made some really big mistakes, and it was quite the experience. I feel like I recommend game jams a lot, but it's been a while since I've done one, so I thought I'd give some tips on what not to do based on my experience with this game jam. Stick around if you want to save yourself during your next game jam, or if you just want to laugh at my expense. Every game jam starts with a theme being announced. This year's theme was Roll of the Dice. The brainstorming phase had never really been more than a few hours in the past, but this one had me stuck. Not because I couldn't think of a good idea, but because I knew that all the ideas I was coming out with would be the same things that everyone else would come up with. After a few hours though, I decided to just start prototyping my first idea. You play as a dice in a top-down puzzle game where each side of the dice has an elemental ability. This is the big thing I want to focus on: prototyping. I didn't know how I would really do it, and I wanted to try using Construct 3's new 3D object feature to make it look cooler. Only problem is I could not figure it out, and the more I messed with it, the worse it got.
Okay, I think this is working pretty well. What?
I also had the idea of making the camera rotate around the dice, which I thought would be cool. But I learned that making a 3D game in a 2D engine with no experience doing it is not a good idea for a game jam. Also, it's probably a good thing this didn't work out because literally everybody else had the same game idea. This might sound like a little waste of time, but no. This is good. I had an idea, and within an hour or two, I knew that I couldn't accomplish it within the time frame of the jam. That's why prototyping is so important. If I had just started making art and menus and setting up the story, I would have made a huge mistake and I probably wouldn't have finished the jam. The reason I'm telling you this is because I literally did the opposite of this advice with my second idea. When I had the idea of a rotating camera around the player, I had another idea. A very strange idea. I knew everybody was going to make a game where you play as the dice. I wanted to stray away from that a bit. So what if you played as a character who was pushing the dice around? But that was still too generic. But what if I put a person inside the dice, and when you rolled the dice, the level inside flipped 90 degrees? I had no idea if this concept would even work, but I liked it and I'd already wasted 2 hours, so I just started on art, which is exactly what I told you not to do. You'll see why that was a mistake later. I came up with 2 main characters and a bad guy. I used Paladin to make their colors, which I'm finding myself doing more and more now. It's just very easy to get some coherent looking colors, and I like it. It's a very good website. I also did a rough sketch of what the world might look like. I was happy with the concept, so I just started animating. Still haven't even touched the prototype yet. Do you see the issue? I animated a walk cycle, jump and fall animation, and push and pull animation for the big player, and then a simple walk cycle and jump and fall for the small player. Then I made a tile map for the main environment. This took me hours. Finally, after about 6 hours total, I put the main character and the tile map into Construct and made the easy part. Alright, so it's been like, what, six hours now? This is what I got so far. Little Peanut Man can move, push, and pull the dice. The hard part I'm trying to figure out is how to make the dice rotate, and then I'm gonna add the whole nother like dimension with the other guy. So it's gonna get a little crazy. I also made sure to force myself to eat and go outside, which is very easy to forget to do in a game jam. I also touched some grass just to make sure I still remembered what it felt like. The rest of the night was dedicated to the main mechanic, the dice rolling. After throwing all the art I made for the dice together, I realized something kind of important. It doesn't work. For some reason, I didn't think at all about how complicated the idea of rotating the entire level on half of the screen would be. My initial approach was literally rotating the wall and hoping that everything inside would just magically align within it. And that is why prototyping is important, kids. This could have been the end of me if I couldn't think of a better way to do it. Luckily, I'm very good at making things work even when they should not work. And I'm very good at coming up with stupid solutions. After freaking out a little bit because I couldn't figure out how to make the main mechanic of my game, I came up with this genius solution. I needed the location of everything inside the dice to rotate with it, so I enabled a grid on the image editor of the dice and added a new image point on every grid. And then when the level starts, I automatically create a dot on every spot. Then I can check to see if the boxes, stars, or spikes are overlapping a grid spot and make sure that they stay over the same spot as the dice rotates. I realize now that I probably could have just used Construct 3's pin behavior to just pin each object to the dice at the start, and that would have been so much easier. I was tired though, and sometimes with game jams you just have to make things work, even if the way you did it is embarrassing. Alright, basically done with day 1. I kind of turned it into more of like a fire boy and water girl type. Both things are going on at the same time because it was a little confusing when you roll the dice and have to like switch screens, so I like it better on one screen. Now it's kind of like this. Ta-da. And then when you get both stars, it says yay. For tomorrow, I need to work on like the actual game, because right now this is all it is. It's just nothing. Trying to come up with some more ideas for other mechanics that I could develop, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow. While I sleep, consider the following. Do you like my videos? If so, you should make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the cool stuff I make in the future. Night night. I got my rest and came back the next day hoping to get some main mechanics into the game to make puzzles out of. I only added a few just to make sure that the scope didn't get too big. I made spikes that the player inside the dice can fall into, buttons that open doors, and portals. Alright, it's about 2:30 now and I'm just about finished with the main mechanics. Now I'm just working on like level design and stuff. Doing fun stuff like this, kind of planning it out on paper first and then just implementing it, and it's actually coming along pretty well. I'm surprised that it actually is kind of fun, so that's a good thing, but still wouldn't recommend the way I approach this game jam. The fun thing about game design is this part. How many different ways can I use the same mechanic? For example, usually you would use a door to block access from somewhere, but what if you use the door to go up, or if you used a door as a platform to drop something? Basically, the majority of Saturday was me just making and fine-tuning all the mechanics and designing levels. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but my goal was actually to finish the whole game by Saturday night. That way I didn't have to worry about it on Sunday when the itch.io website usually blows up. Unfortunately, that meant a very late night on Saturday. Getting my brother to playtest it for me, what do you think?
It's good.
I also took a 2-hour break during this time to watch the Minion movie, which was not worth it. After getting some feedback from my brother and finishing up the main menus, I was pretty much done, except for the worst part, sound. It is late, 10:40 something or other, the night of, doing some audio stuff because I can't find anything good online, so I have to do it myself. For some of the more unique sounds like the dice rolling, I use the sound files that I already had from Coco the Last Leaf, which is the Metroidvania I'm working on, which you should wishlist on Steam. And for some of the more common sounds or the ones that I just didn't feel like making myself, I just use stuff from Free Sounds. Free Sounds never fails to amuse me. This is poof sound effects, right? And this is one. What the, why? I love Free Sounds. Unfortunately, I'm a psychopath, and I decided to make my own music, too. It's past midnight, and I decided to score myself a soundtrack. So, this was a mistake. I don't know why I'm doing this. After all that was in there though, I uploaded everything to itch.io without a cover or anything, and I tested it real quick just to make sure it wasn't broken, and I just went to bed. I didn't get back to the itch page until the game jam was almost done. I drew some cover art and recorded some GIFs, but I couldn't upload any of them. There were so many people frantically trying to submit their games at the last moment that the website was lagging super hard, and it even went down for a solid 20 minutes right around submissions. Mark Brown broke itch.io again. For those unfamiliar with the GMTK game jam, it's pretty much the biggest game jam that happens on itch.io every year, and it keeps getting bigger, and so the servers are not really ready for thousands of people to be uploading games at the same time. It's kind of insane, so I like to have my game in early, that way I don't have to be one of the people who are freaking out at the end trying to upload their games. It's just nice to watch, but not to be in it. Anyways, I was very glad in that moment that I uploaded my game the night before. I'd been planning on fixing a couple bugs and re-uploading, but in all the chaos I just decided it probably wasn't worth it. Ultimately, I'm really happy with the product I came up with, especially considering I did it solo in only 1.5 days. The game is called Curse of the Dice Witch, and it's got cute characters and cutscenes and 8 levels. It honestly didn't turn out half bad, at least I think. Give it a try on my itch.io page if you want. The moral of the story? Why do you ask? Did you forget already? Prototype your dang ideas. Usually they don't translate directly from your brain to a game engine. You have to figure out how to work around all the technical hurdles to make something fun. I got lucky in this game jam too. Things could have been a lot worse if I never figured out the dice roll mechanic, or if I settled for the weird physics-based thing like I had going on at first.